This is giving like when the person says no one believed in me, and you're like, when did we not believe in you? Like that's what this is giving.
Brat summer, baby. I should be wearing green, okay? Just to make sure that you guys know Charlie XCX is back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Soundbites, the part of the Album Mode podcast when we're talking about the music, the culture, the internet, sometimes the legal issues, the music culture that we exist in today. My name is Démar Grant, aka King Grant, aka Da Bunny, aka Iron Man. And I'm here with my esteemed co-host and co-creator, Adriel Smiley, adrielsmiley.com, Adriel Smiley official, the Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
And we are back slightly into the second part of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's July, let's say early July right now, because I don't want to date this too badly, but it's early July. We've gotten to the point now where we're heard a bunch of albums, a ton of albums we haven't even reviewed, right? And we're here to talk about our best albums, favorite albums so far, things that are in the discussion for that top 10 at the end.
Yes.
Right? So I'm honestly curious to hear what you have to say. Obviously, I'm here, we're reviewing things, as a tandem. So I've heard some of the things that you said.
Yes.
But not every song that I have on my list here, my short abbreviated list, again, this list is also in no order, is not everything that we reviewed.
Okay.
So I'm curious to hear what's on yours. So do you give me one of them?
Okay, you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with the one that everyone knew would be on here. Blue Lips, Schoolboy Q. That was an obvious one to be on here.
Most overrated 2024.
No. Most underrated, I would say. That album still sounds good. And that album is still the songs, when I play songs from it, on new people, that still probably gets the most reaction of all the albums on here. I'd say, almost any song from that album, if I play on the aux or in my car, someone is always like, who is this? What is this? So to have that still be the reaction months later, I feel good about having this on my list.
Yeah, I think it's a good album. I think that the hip-hop heads rate it big time, right? We are obviously hip-hop heads. I think I am a little bit more diverse when it comes to my music taste. Even in hip-hop, like, I like Ken Carson, but I also like Schoolboy Q. Not as much as you.
You don't like Schoolboy Q.
Not as much as you.
You don't like Schoolboy Q.
I like him. You love him, though. You love him.
Okay.
But yeah, I like Ken Carson, Kendrick Lamar, all that good stuff. So it's like there's a range. Playboi Carti, obviously one of my favorite hip hop artists. So I think it's a good I think Blue Lips is a good album. Good tracks on it. I like the grunge, but did not make my list, unfortunately. I don't know if that's a surprise to many of you people out there.
No.
Okay, so this one, one of the albums I had on my list was actually one of my most anticipated, which that you kind of brushed off. You're like, oh, whatever, Like, it's the most anticipated. Like, I don't really get it. But it was one of my most anticipated, and I was right. Charlie XCX, Brat. I told you guys this album was gonna be heat before it even came out. I'm like, the Charlie XCX album is gonna slap. It's my most anticipated album. And everybody was like, Crash was okay. It wasn't that big of a deal. Now look, Brat Summer.
You know what? I do agree with you. It's one of the best albums of the year. I didn't have it on my list because I was like, Démar was going to mention this one. Like, I don't need to waste a spot on this one. But this is giving like when the person says no one believed in me, and you're like, when did we not believe in you? Like, that's what this is giving.
Brat Summer, baby. I should be wearing green, okay? Just to make sure that you guys know Charlie XCX is back.
I'm anti-Brat, okay?
Anti-Brat.
Anti-Brat Summer. Like, I love the album, but adults acting like brats.
Oh, come on.
I'm not pro that. Let's all be, mature and behave.
Shame. Nope, I'm outside. I'm outside.
No, you're a brat. I take AKs.
I'm outside.
Big brat energy.
360 it is one of the songs of the summer. Genuinely. 365 I like a little bit more than 360, but I get the 360-ness. There's songs that I didn't even like that people really love, like Apple. People really like Apple, even though I was like, even though that I would say I was lower than most on that. But I think that, it's hyper pop, it's irreverent, Wannabe, this fuck you attitude. There is a little bit of indie sleaze on it as well. So I think Von Dutch, Talk. There's a lot of good tracks. And I was right.
A lot of good tracks.
And I was right. All right, Adriel.
You didn't make the album.
I'm on Team Charlie XCX. I'm going to be wearing green. Go ahead.
This next one, I know you don't have this on your list. This one, I feel like probably the album I listen to the most, or maybe the most songs from, one of the most songs from, is Might Delete Later, J. Cole. Still a very good project. Of course, a lot has happened since this album came out that has tainted how this album has been viewed. But
go ahead.
But the songs on their own still stand up. So to me, still one of the best albums of the year.
Yeah, I think that the Culture did a 180 on J. Cole, where it came out, the album came out, it was kind of like an afterthought. The last song was the most important. And then he took off that song. He got clowned. And then after what Kendrick Lamar did to Drake, everybody's like, you know what? J. Cole was actually right. You might have actually done the correct thing, You might have. And we did mention that, I think in the review.
And on the sound bites as well.
Yeah, that eventually we're going to look back and be like, actually, J. Cole made the right decision, even though it's not very hip hop. That album is good. And I think that over time, people will come to realize that it was actually way, way better than they initially thought. Because the songs are actually just really good. It's just like there's so much shit that was happening at the same time.
Yeah, it's an avalanche of stuff.
So it didn't make my list yet.
Yeah.
I would say it's a consideration.
Yeah, I like this project because I think this is the mix of what we talked about last week with Megan Thee Stallion of does rapping fast mean rapping good? This is one of the best projects of the mix of like great rapping technically and making good songs still.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, even someone like Kendrick, it's like, okay, we get it, you can rap. But do I want to listen to this over and over again?
Yeah, Eminem is like the cardinal sin of that.
Yeah. I would say those two are like the two top culprits of that, Kendrick and Eminem. But I would say this is probably the project that has done the best job in a long time of mixing the two of those. So I like this on here. I want to hear what else you got on your list.
Okay, so my next one, I probably don't even need to say it, but everybody knows it's the other Green album, Yeat 2093.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like the brother album to Brat almost. Right? It's similar aesthetic where it's like a lot of like right? There's a lot of distortion just like on Brat, but there's more of a hip hop angle, obviously. The vocals from Yeat, amazing. I think this is the album I listened to the most this like entire year. I know, you're hip hop fans out there. Again. I'm still in there.
Defending yourself is an admission of guilt.
No, absolutely not.
It's okay to like the album. Like what you like, man. You don't got to defend yourself.
Absolutely. I think that, I just loved it. I think, if we're being real, that even had its own, like, little moment on TikTok.
Yeah.
I like Breathe a lot. I'm trying to remember the Psycho
Breathe,
Psycho CEO. I even just, like, say that. Like, that's just, like, a thing for me. I'm just, like, I'm the Psycho CEO. Right? I think that song is really good. What's another track? Shade, I really like a lot.
Shade was my track for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really good songs on there. It came out early this year. It was in February. So I feel like, people are going to, it's kind of one of those things that kind of recedes in the back of your mind. But when we're going to be talking about top 10s, I guarantee you you're going to see this on a lot of people's top 10s too.
I'm interested to see if that actually comes true because I think the review and the response was lukewarm when the album came out, and a lot of Yeat fans did not like that project,
right?
Which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was so weird to me. That was so odd to me.
I thought, but I kind of get it because I think that my, I guess, biggest problem with this project is that it suffers as a full project to me. I think all these songs individually, it's heat. But I think if you listen to this, like, an hour of this, pew, 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 I think it does tend to grate on people. And so I'm interested to see how that kind of ages because I don't know if everyone's been listening to this on repeat like you have. Yeah.
It's also, like I compared it to Brat, slower pace. Yeah. It's slower pace and slightly longer. And that's something that, a lot of albums suffer from. But, songs like You Should Know, like, come on, guys. Like, I think after Charlie XCX's Brat came out, you're going to hear Brat. You're like, okay, this is sick. You're going to go about your life and stuff like that. And you're going to come back to the Yeat album. And you're like, wait, hold on a second. he's doing a thing, like doing something. I do think that they're similar in a lot of ways. And I think that the grand scale appreciation of that album will actually surge as things progress.
I think Charlie will get it. I don't think Yeat will get it. I think
the Charlie thing is like through the roof right now.
No, Charlie's getting that love for sure.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Charlie's album, but I think Yeat is not going to get that love because his fan base is so rooted in hip hop.
Yeah.
Like he's not, the people who listen to Charlie don't know who Yeat is.
That's true.
They've never heard of him. So I think that's going to be something that is very, very interesting.
Your next one.
My next album is an album that we didn't review at all.
Okay.
And this is one of the albums that listening in a full, like this would be a vinyl cop for me, is Why Laud, No Worries, Anderson .Paak, and Knowledge. This album has been very anticipated for quite a long time. Their first project together probably has 3 or 4 classic songs. So everyone's like, okay, y'all did a classic the first time, classic again. When Anderson .Paak worked with Bruno Mars, people were saying, is it going to be better than him working with Knowledge?
Yeah.
And I think that putting Knowledge on that level with Bruno Mars shows the level of like music they make when they do work together. But this project has some great features on it, some great voices on it, like, you know, Thundercat, her, Dave Chappelle.
Kind of came out of nowhere. I feel like it just like dropped. And then everybody was like kind of looking around like, holy shit, he dropped the album.
Well, they had the singles and they dropped all the singles together and kind of the lead up to the project. So I think there's more like if you know, you know. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if the white women were really tapped into this.
The Brat fandom is not.
Yeah, like that's what I think is a lot of the albums we're talking about is depending on what part of the world you're in or what part of the algorithm you're in, as if these albums are in your lexicon. Because I think there's someone who has been playing this album for the past few weeks and still hasn't heard Brat. And I think in terms of like theme and pace, 2 different worlds.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
I think it's rare that I want to feel like how Brat makes me feel. I think the music is good, but I'm not in my crib washing my dishes, you know, listening to Brat. Like that is just not the life I want to live. But this, more my speed.
Okay.
More my speed. Maybe it's because I'm elder. But what do you have next?
Okay, for me, next one. This is something I also said that was my most anticipated. But then you also doubted me. So this is Micha by Micha Dailey-White.
You also doubted me.
No. This is for real though.
Did I doubt you?
You doubted that because I was like, oh, it's my most anticipated because I think that he might actually release the album on Spotify instead of just SoundCloud. And you're like, really? Why do you like, really? Do you think so?
I doubted that he would put the album on Spotify. That's right. Correct. But that's not doubting you.
That's doubting him. That's doubting him, and I am part of him. I think that...
Demar wants to be doubted, so we have a doubting king. In the comments, doubt Demar.
Yeah. Everybody doubted me. Everybody doubted me. No, but I think that this project, I think he's, first of all, Micha Dailey-White is a TikTok memester, right? His videos on TikTok are like vines, basically. They're like reprised vines. Not actually reprised vines, but like the essence of them are vines. And I think because he's so funny, he kind of almost has like a Tyler the Creator syndrome where because he's so funny that there was like a doubt to his music. But then if you actually listen to the album, it's shockingly good. For somebody that is such a just like jokester, just like bouncing off the walls and stuff like that. He is actually a really, really good musician. Songs like Lust, One on One. Oh my God, the remix. That song is so good. It's like this New Jack swing that is incorporated in it. This is one of those albums I listen to all the time. Cold is really good with the synths and stuff. Like it's more of a rock album. I would consider, he's making rock music.
Okay.
But there's other elements that get drawn in again, like the synths I mentioned in Cold and the New Jack swing. But then there's like a song like Lust is almost like reminds me a little bit of Deftones. The way that that song is constructed, the way that the instruments like crash on top of you.
That's pretty accurate.
Right? So I think that this is one of my favorite albums. One of those that I don't think anybody's even reviewed it or anything like that. It kind of just like flown under the radar because of who he is and then how he released it, because he released it originally on SoundCloud and then re-released it on Spotify. So Micha by Micha Dailey-White. It's a black man making rock music. returning to our roots. It's crazy, man. It's so good.
Yeah, I like that album a lot. I always forget about that project until you start gushing about it again. But that's like an album that I think just how good it is deserves to be in this conversation. Yeah, for sure. My next one is a newer project, an album that came out pretty recently. Lucky Daye's Algorithm.
Yeah, this is on my list too.
Yeah, this is a kind of an automatic on the list. This was a project that the amount of people that hit me up about this project afterwards, either whether it's seeing our review or just like asking me about the project, and then, did you guys review this? Because this is good. I was like, yeah,
we reviewed it.
YouTube album mode. But I think that this is a project that I feel even more validated than what I said when we did our review and about the effect it would have, because I see that happening already where this project is becoming popular for being good. Yeah. And that's such a rare thing in music in this day and age where an album grows and blows up because everyone hears how good it is. Like, what's the last album that's like that? Usually it's a TikTok moment or something that happened on social media, but
yeah, he hasn't had like a pop moment or any sort of pop like that at all, really.
Yeah, and so I think that for this project to be, again, gaining steam through word of mouth in 2024, just for being good, like that's rarefied air, yeah.
Big deal. I like a lot of songs. Remember when we were talking about it on the review? We were trying to figure out Hurricane, and we were like, oh, what is that from? What's the reference from? What was the reference from?
Electric Feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was one of those things that I didn't think that, I don't know how it snuck past us, because Electric Feel is like one of the most popular songs of the 2010s.
It's like how?
Yeah, but it was so good. I love a lot of the songs on it. Again, the songwriting is really good. I'm still maintaining that it sounds like Frank Ocean, but early stage Frank Ocean. I know that people didn't.
Someone else told me that without hearing our review, so you're not alone.
Yeah,
you're not alone.
So yeah, and even in the comments of that video, they're like, "This." I forgot the name of the commenter. I'll tag you somewhere, but they said this is what people think Frank Ocean sounds like.
Oh, I saw that.
So he's in a Frank Ocean space, basically, and that's a rarefied air. I don't know if you realize this, but people love Frank Ocean, right? And we were also comparing him to the Masters, Prince, right? So I think that Algorithm is a great album. I think that I'm not there with you where you're like, this is going to be hugely influential, but I am in the space where I'm like, this is going to be one of those albums that I'm going to continuously get picked up and picked up and picked up. This is an album, I truly believe, like at the end of the year, people are going to be talking about this like
for sure
all year.
This is, I think, going to be the album that at next year's Grammys, they're going to be like,
who? And then they hear the album and they're like, oh.
Yeah, because I think someone who did compare them to Frank Ocean, so I think you're not wrong on that, especially his voice. But someone who texted me about this album isn't really a big R&B fan. Right. And so I think that is where he's really made that crossover with this project that, probably wouldn't happen otherwise. So big shout out to Lucky Daye, because listen, if you had told me that Lucky Daye makes our best albums of the year list in 2024, I was not buying that.
Yeah, exactly. He was on my radar, but I'd never listened to a full album. And you had listened to full albums, and you were telling me they were not very good.
Yeah, I was not a fan. I was not a fan. Do you have one more? Because I have one more.
I have two more. Okay. So my next one is something that it feels like it popped so early this year that we forgot about it. Water. By Tyla.
Yes.
That album I think it came out in maybe like January, early January.
Do you think it's been forgotten about? I feel like it's very prevalent right now. Like I'm seeing
I think the song is very prevalent.
I was going to say the album. I think people are playing the album in full a lot right now. I think this is like the album's peak in a sense. I think the song, of course, probably the biggest song of any of these projects we've talked about. But I would say, maybe in your algorithm it's been forgotten about. But I think right now this is at the peak of the album being played and listened to a lot. So yeah, I think you're right for having this in here.
Yeah, it's definitely a summer album, but it came out in March. So it's had some time to sizzle. But now it's like, I feel like very summery. This is the perfect time to be playing it. Songs like Jump, Skilly Bang did his thing.
Yeah.
Gunna.
Your boy
did his thing. I can't believe I was saying that. I think I even said that like way back then, but he is still doing his thing. I still like songs like Art, Breathe Me, obviously number one with Thames. So
on and on.
Yes, there's a lot of good songs. Again, it's very summary. We're talking Afro beats, so it's a vibe. It's also really short. I think it's like 40 minutes, something like that. So yeah, Water by Tyla, Tyla by Tyla. I said Water at the beginning, but it's Tyla by Tyla.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna be in contention for the year end list for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think in terms of someone having a viral moment and then having an album that can match that and kind of capitalize on that, she's done one of the best jobs I've seen in years. And I think what's set her apart is, I think, the appearances she's making, and the album is so strong because she's not even considered being put in that group with Pink Panthers when she first came out, or Ice Spice. So for her to not even be considered that when she had the most viral moment out of all of them,
yeah,
I think is, a credit to the work that she's done. Last but not least, and this album is like, if you listen to this podcast, you're not surprised this is on here. The Last Dinner Party.
Yeah.
Prelude to Ecstasy. Yeah, this is still an album that I listen to, pretty frequently. I'll pull, whenever I have a moment where I come back to life, I'll pull songs from this album into a new playlist. So this is an obvious one to me. I think that this is probably the lock to make my top 10 list at the end of the year.
Yeah, me too.
Of all the projects. And like, if this is lower than 5, I'll be surprised. Like, this is up there for me where I'm like, this could be easily in the top 3.
Yeah, we both give it like a 9 or something.
Yeah, competing for that top spot. So still like this project a lot. This is a project that at the time I felt like it would age very well.
It still has. It's still working.
Yeah, still working. So we're early July. If somehow you listen to this podcast, listening to on your podcast platforms or watching us on YouTube, and you haven't heard Prelude to Ecstasy by The Last Dinner Party,
play it now.
Turn us off. Yeah. Come back to us, okay? Prelude to Ecstasy, Last Dinner Party. Please go listen to that.
Yeah, that's definitely still one of my favorite albums. Again, the songwriting is really fucking good. And there is that element. I remember talking about that element of like being homosexual, but also being religious, and like that combat between those two.
Sinner.
Yeah, those two things. Sinner. I love that song.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Love that song. So I think that, Last Dinner Party, they were one of the people that had industry plant allegations this year. But the album is really good. Something that I'm going to be looking forward to its position on a lot of people's lists, because I do think that they got the push. Whatever the push was, they got the push.
They got it.
But the music is backing it up, so push is legitimate, And then I have one more, and then we can all scram and get out of here. I'm gonna put Future, We Don't Trust You on this list. I think it's hanging on. Everything else is like, they're solidified. They're in there. This one is like, hanging by the lip of the platform. I think that there's also just like a cultural moment to the album overall. But there's a lot of great songs on there. I think Metro Boomin is pretty much reaching his peak as a producer. Like he's getting to this point where he's just dropping anything that has his name attached to it is just fire.
Yeah.
Like really, it really is. I think that there's so many songs where Metro Boomin is just he is worthy of being listed in the headliner. It's a Future and Metro Boomin album, right? Songs like Young Metro, Ice Attack, Cinderella. Cinderella is really good. I think that it's just great. Good visuals too. It had great visuals. Album cover was one of the best album covers this year. Like there's just a lot of great things happening in that direction. Yeah,
this is one that I thought about putting on my list because Cinderella I listen to all the time. Like that,
of course. That started everything.
Type shit is a big one too. Yeah, that's
a good song too.
But I think why this didn't make it in for me is this album doesn't have the quality of where when I go back to it and I'm like, oh, this song's not that bad. It's like, oh, I know why I don't listen to this song. And so I think that's the difference with an album like Prelude to Ecstasy. When you go back to that and hear that 9th song you didn't listen to before, you're like, oh, I gotta listen to this a little more, don't I?
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's missing. Before we get out of here, I have 3 honorable mentions.
Oh.
All from the UK. That was not the plan. It just happened like that.
Okay.
But On Purpose with Purpose from Gets. Drop 7, Lil Sims. I think that to me is what I would listen to instead of the Charlie XX album.
Okay.
That's probably more my speed than Brat. And then last but not least, this one, I literally just got put onto maybe last week, 2 weeks ago. Love Rhythms, Joe James. I saw people on the interwebs on TikTok raving about this project. And I said, I got to go check it out. I trust my UK people when it comes to music. They were absolutely right. This is like, I would say he's like a soulful UK rapper, but still trying to, almost like Dave in terms of trying to be like deep and introspective, but the sound is just more soulful. So Love Rhythms, Joe James, Drop 7 Lil Sims, and On Purpose with Purpose by Getz.
Yeah.
Those are all the mentions. Let us know in the comments. Did we miss any albums that should be on this list? These are our favorite albums of the year so far. Between us, we got about 15 albums close to it.
Yeah, around that. I'd even mention my honorable mention of Ashbeck, right? Ash Londo 3, which is with El Londo.
Yeah.
And then I think that's it. I don't think I have any other honorable mentions.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Zach Bryan.
If we missed an album. Zach Bryan is honorable mention. I think it's what's
too early. It's a little bit too early.
Definitely too early. But I think he has a good chance of making it into our top 10 at the end of the year.
Me too.
But I want to know what y'all think. Is there an album that we forgot? Of course, the Beyonce fans. We see you. Taylor fans.
We don't see you.
We see you.
We don't see you.
No, that's your demographic. We see them. We don't want to turn our back on them. Taylor fans, we see you. Okay? You have plenty of chances to make it into this top 5 next year. But let us know in the comments. Is there an album that we missed? Because I feel like we got a pretty good list here.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into Album Mode. Tuning into Soundbites, part of the Album Mode podcast where we're talking about the music, the culture, the internet, and the legal battles of the internet culture and music culture that we have today. I want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning into the YouTube video. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the audio only. We still love you guys. You guys are here. You're our day ones. Those are our day ones, okay? Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on this video. Make sure you follow us on the internet at Album Mode Pod on Instagram, at Album Mode on YouTube, at Album Mode Pod on Twitter, at Album Mode Pod on TikTok. We're out here blasting people on social, making sure we're out there. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And Adriel, make sure you know yourself and know your worth.
Later days.